can shift over to the king side if white ever tries to attack it aggressively.
Yeah, and even though I certainly would not have accepted the isolated pawns, we're referring to the pawn in the center of the board right now for white, no pawns on either side of it to support it, which means that it can only be supported by pieces, and it also can't move forward. So it's just kind of a sitting duck, easy to attack. Even though that pawn is in the position, I have to say, he probably is going to have a pretty easy time moving his queen, playing rook over to the open file where black's rook is. And sometimes the frustrating thing about these positions as the higher rated player is your opponent can just bring the rook to the open line, trade it, bring the other rook over, trade it, and all of a sudden you're playing an end game where you might be better, but it's a bit unclear whether it's always enough to win.
That's right. Hans is going to probably try to build a bit of a time advantage here because of the one nice thing, it's a very easy position to play. White's playing good moves. Well, man, my timing is a bit off here.
Yeah.
Both times that I've tried to compliment Majed, he's made an inaccuracy. And there's no room for that when you're playing up, quite a bit of rating. But I do see he's 2,200. So I didn't actually see that when I made my comment. His posture, sometimes body language and posture, you ask some players. I had a friend who hadn't played chess in 15 years. And he played with me in London at this recent Team Rapid Championships, World Team Rapid Championships.
Yep.
And he didn't know who he beat. But he's like, I think he's good because of how he touched the pieces and adjusted them at the start of the game. So posture, they're playing online, so you can't tell as much. But there are sometimes a few reads where you can see if someone's confident, if they know how to handle the pieces. Online, not quite the same factor. But I was like, yeah, this guy, he's dressed well and he's really focused and looks like he's trying to put up a fight. But that isolated pawn that just disappeared is going to decide the game. That's all it takes. Losing one pawn, that's going to be very hard to overcome because look at black's position. There's no weaknesses.
Yep, completely agree. He's just basically tripling on the open line here. Now, if every single piece traded, he wouldn't be that upset. He may go rook d2 instead of trading, but even trading everything is a very, very comfortable position. But with rook d2 available, certainly he's going to go for that.
Yeah, this result is not in doubt. It's a position you can't pressure Hans at all, and mistakes usually come from some sort of pressure, time pressure, position pressure, and here white is just on the defensive, both material-wise and positionally. You can see that the white player is, he's a bit more animated than before. He's made a few blunders, and I think he's realized that.
I actually thought he was reaching for his headset there as if he was going to resign and take it off.
I think so. Sure. I thought that maybe for a brief moment, thought he blundered the bishop on e2. It almost looked like that.
It was a good move, actually, what he played, but it was almost like he didn't realize it. So I thought maybe he was going to resign, but, the game still persists here, but you just look at the invasion. The rook on b2 is going to, at some point, either win the b pawn. I was looking at, g5 is nice to sort of fix the pawns on the king side. They can't move at all now. If you play g4, then the f4 square, a dark square, is very, very weak. And Hans is up a clear pawn and should be a position, someone of his caliber is not going to mess up.
Absolutely. Bringing the king to e7, you're watching at home, that's always a good habit in these endgames. Because even though white has the d file, the king and knight and the pawn cover all of the dangerous squares. The rook can't actually join the game, so you can, white's rook on d1 isn't so influential, whereas the rook on b2 pressures b3, pressures f2, and you're going to see Hans maybe play a move like g4 in the future as a way to maybe free up either e4, g4 for the knight, or something classic like knight d7 to knight e5, knight d7 to knight c5. But very controlled chess by Hans. And here we go. Here's your g4 move, and you mentioned the f4 square is weak, and that knight journey goes to d7. It might go to e5, g6, f4. It might go to c5. But if it ever parks itself on f4, White can do
Yeah.
nothing about it.
Yep. And it does look like, Hans is taking the path of least resistance, because there might have been a move b5 available on the previous turn in order to maybe win the b pawn, but he's repositioning the knight. The f3 pawn is attacked here. There's rook b3. He's not going to move that knight on e5 because it's covering the d7 square. And talk about path of least resistance, you don't want to allow any counterplay. So rook d7 check is not a move you ever want to let white play.
No. And the nice thing about White's pawns being frozen is if the knight ever gets harassed, you can even play a move like f6. Then that knight is permanently on that square, and a centralized knight is a great knight, hitting everything. If you want to correct myself, I got some nice chat input. I believe the name is pronounced Majed instead of how I was pronouncing it. So getting experience with some new names from different regions there, but yeah, he's fighting. He's fighting.
Yeah, it reminds me of sometimes you play a chess tournament with kids, and it's the kids are the ones that you can tell. I can usually make a prediction early on, like, is this kid going to be pretty good at chess, or is it just going to be a hobby? And there's a pretty strong correlation between the kids that are well behaved, well mannered at the chessboard, not goofing around, taking their time, not moving instantly, just those mannerisms at the table. And something tells me that our friend here, Majed, was maybe one of those well-behaved kids, and it's kind of turned into that posture for him now.
Yeah, that reminds me, I lost to Merzin, who's playing in this group, when he was maybe 13 or 14. And he looked even younger than that when I lost to him. But it was in Russia, his posture and his just body language of the board, like, I could tell he was on his way to big things in chess. He was very, very professional there, and I've seen some other young players on their way. I remember you played World Rapid and Blitz with me in Kazakhstan, 2022.
Yes.
You played a young boy, Adiz Gurel.
That's
if I
right.
recall. And now he's one of the strongest juniors in the world. He was strong at the time, but he's only risen rapidly since then, and he was very well behaved at the board, very professional, and we knew he was trouble. He was going to be very strong. Like I could just tell, and now it's being confirmed.
And it's one of those things that once you're very, very elite in the world of chess, like Hans Niemann, you don't need good posture. The chess speaks for itself.
Yeah, as you get stronger, you see some interesting postures. Aman has had moments where he's got the posture check, where I've seen his back expand a little bit. Grishuk also has some funny photos like that.
Yeah. And there's no tougher angle than this one right here. That the Esports is bringing, the side profile, sitting there in the chairs. That's a lot of scrutiny on your posture, your mannerisms. So I've generated some sympathy for it, and something we all got to work on. But at the end of the day, it just really depends what moves are ending up on the board there. And as I say that, I think he's actually just going to resign before it can be reacted to. Rook and Bishop both hanging. That is a win for Hans Niemann. He's comfortably up to 2 out of 2.